Welcome to an episode of Social PR Secrets, the podcast. My name is Lisa Beyer, and I will be your host. Today's guest is Jen Lopez. When I first got into the industry of internet marketing, Jen was one of the first people that I met, and I was so impressed. She is very smart when it comes to
Okay, so welcome. We're here in week 11, and we're covering the topic is community management as it relates to social media management. And I'm happy to introduce our guest interview is with Jen Lopez, and she is with the brand at Moz. Hi, Jen.
Hi, how's it going?
Good.
Great.
So I invited Jen because we have gotten to know each other over the years in different conferences, and I admire her so much on what a great job she does with Moz as their director of community. And Jen also was a major in journalism in Colorado, and she is going to be talking to us today about social media management etiquette and some of the ins and outs that she's experienced in managing the Moz brand. So I just want to read one review that I noticed that she had on her LinkedIn profile. So it said, Jen is one of the best community managers and social SEO marketers I know. Not just is she technical, but she can also understand all sides of the equation. But she is also very positive. And moreover, she knows how to make other people happy. So Jen, I think besides talking about the possible pitfalls and how to handle social media, you're really good at making people happy. So with that, I'm just going to go into the first question is, can you walk us through a typical day in the life of a community manager at Moz?
Sure. Well, thank you also for that very nice intro and that review. People sometimes are very kind.
And also, if you want to tell us a little bit about Moz.
Yeah, so Moz, so there's often two sides of Moz. So there's the side of Moz we're a software as a service company. We have software for marketers, and it's right now much very SEO focused, but it can help you, understand how your website is doing, how your competitors' websites are doing, and how you can improve that. We also have this very large, robust community, and we focus a lot on we have a blog, we have webinars, we have all this content that is constantly going out. We have guides and various things that we're constantly putting out there. We have a forum, and so we're trying to get the community involved all the time. And while our membership level is at, I think, 25,000 or something like that. Our community is, 3 to 350,000 people. And so the community is quite large, and the community we think of as a way we can take someone who may be a beginner in SEO, we can train them, help them level up so they get to a point where they can use our software, because our software is not for beginners. And so that's kind of what we do, and where we're coming from on the community side of things. The community team at Moz manages all of our social accounts. Our community is very active on Twitter, Facebook, and yes, even Google+. And we also have a daily blog and a user-generated blog that anybody can contribute to, and we have a process behind that. We also have a Q&A forum, and then all of our events. So all of those things represent, to us, the Moz community, and we have people that manage those different things. So, for example, we have someone on the East Coast who helps us from Florida. Every morning she manages social from like 7:30 her time until about noon, when somebody 7:30 to 12:30 East Coast time, which is then 9:30 somebody from the West Coast and here in Seattle jumps in. So we have social coverage throughout the day. That means we're watching all of the channels. The things we focus on are Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. However, we also have a very active group on LinkedIn. YouTube is, we've been slow to use YouTube just because we have lots of other things, but so from the social side, we're monitoring and watching a number of things. And then we're also making sure we're checking for comments on the site. We're managing blog posts that are going out, as in editing and such for UMAs. And we have a set of guidelines and rules that we follow not only on our website, but even in social. Now, obviously, we can't, on Twitter, what we do is we don't respond to people sometimes if they're mad and cussing at us. If they're upset about something, we will respond and ask how we can help. But we have a set of rules of how, who and how we'll respond to people, and we stick to that. We will ban people from the site if needed, if they're, continually doing things that we've asked them not to do. And so those strict guidelines have really helped us. And on Facebook, I'll remove a comment if somebody, says some nasty thing. I don't know. For the most part, we don't remove things, but if it's, telling someone they look funny or, I don't know, whatever, we stick to those rules and guidelines across the board.
And who's that friend behind you?
Oh, this is Roger. I wish I had the real Roger running around. But the other fun part of how we manage social specifically is that we tweet and post on Facebook and such as Roger. So sometimes people will tweet at us and say, "Hey, Roger, where's the link to the new blog post today?" or something like that, and we respond like, "Oh, here it is," or people will say, what, I don't know, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but we respond as if we are Roger. And there are, let's see, at any time during the day, there are 6 different women who manage social, and we are always Roger. Roger, if you notice,
I'm gonna do a screen share of
okay.
Make it better. Hold on.
Yeah, if you take a peek at the tweets and replies, you'll probably see more of that that fun. And you'll also notice, like in our backgrounds, if you look on Twitter and Facebook and Google+, they all match. But yeah, I'd click into the tweets and replies so you can see some of the fun replies to people.
Okay.
No, sorry.
Oh, I'm not logged in. Whoops.
Oh, you're not logged in. So yeah,
No.
so if you scroll up, can you click on that link right there, tweets and replies?
Oh yeah,
right.
sorry. Yep. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, so some of that, it's like, thanks, friend, and thank you for hanging out with us today. So it's that we just had a webinar earlier, so that's what a lot of those are about. We've had times where we've had DDoS attacks, and the site is down, and we end up sitting there having conversations with people, and people are really, as long as we're open and really transparent about what's happening, people are usually like really great. One thing that we have is that our driving force, and it perhaps has been, it may be mentioned elsewhere, but we use tag fee as our driving force, and tag fee is transparent, authentic, generous, fun, exceptional, and empathetic. And I've worked at places before where they've had this like, oh, these, this is how we are, and it never really is. But for us, and especially on the community team, those factors drive everything that we do. Because if someone complains, my initial thought isn't like, oh, what a jerk. It's like, oh man, this person is probably having a really rough day today, and I try to be empathetic to the fact that I don't know what's going on in this person's life, and that it's a real person. That can sometimes, you sometimes forget that you're dealing with other real people, because sometimes people can be really mean and nasty. But if you come to it with the idea that, you know what, they probably have something going on today, my dad recently had surgery, that may put me in a pretty bad mood and make me nastier than normal. And so that's something that we think about, and thinking of that, making sure that we're transparent and authentic. You can be fun and you can have a great time, and still be empathetic to somebody but also empathetic to ourselves, that if someone is, calling us names and being mean, we ignore that. Like, there's no reason that our team has to, put up with that sort of thing. So we try to, even those things out, and it really helps us every day manage our jobs.
About how many messages, social media messages a day do you respond to, do you feel like?
Yeah, so I jumped in to Sprout Social because I wanted to sort of see, what we were getting. And it's anywhere between 150 and 200 messages a day is what we send. However, I looked in the last 90 days, we had over 27,000 mentions. We sent 3,000 tweets, and yeah, those are the two big ones. So, and that's again, 90 days. So we're tweeting a lot. Again, our following, our community on Twitter specifically is super active. Facebook and Google Plus are somewhat active, but Twitter is by far our most active place. There used to be a time when I was the only person who managed all of these things, and the community was much smaller then, and I could spend 20 minutes on Twitter and then do 2 hours doing something else, then come back to Twitter. We now have we're essentially covered on Twitter all day long, not quite 24/7, more like 18/7. So we're mostly covered throughout the day, and it's simply, we're just responding to things all day long because we've trained people over time to know that if you tweet at Moz, you're going to get a response.
Okay. So we've had a couple other guest speakers talking about blogs and content. So how important is the Moz blog to the social media success?
Yeah, it's really huge for us. I mean, the community started as the blog. So we didn't set out saying, we're going to build this great big community of marketers. Rand Fishkin, who formerly was the CEO, he started out by wanting to create a blog to help others learn about SEO and online marketing. And it started very simple. And he was consistent. He consistently wrote a post every day, sometimes twice a day. People got used to, found that they could comment easily, and it was a place where they wouldn't get attacked. Sometimes you go to a blog and you write a comment, and the next response is like, well, you're stupid, and things like that. And we work very hard to make it a place where people feel comfortable leaving comments and, putting their thoughts down. Sometimes the comments on the blog are longer and better than some of the blog posts. It's really amazing. And so for us, our community started as the blog, and it has grown around it. And so the blog for us is crucial. We get 10 to 20% of our just the blog specific traffic is from social. The tough thing is that some of the things that Google says is direct is actually coming from various social places, and so it's hard to specifically say. For us, a lot of our traffic comes from search. That's also because we have a lot of long tail searches, and yes, we've kind of been doing that for a long time. But yeah, so social for us, or the blog for us is key for social. On Twitter specifically, we have found, we used to try to tweet articles from lots of different places, and we found people would get upset, like, well, you tweeted that article from search engine land, why wouldn't you tweet our article? And so what we found is, for us, which is totally different from what most people tell you, we talk about ourselves. Most places will say, no, you do the 80-20, you only talk about yourself 20% of the time, 80% of the time you talk about your community. For us, we find that if you look at just our regular feed without the replies and stuff, we post our blog posts. Often we'll go back and repost certain things. We post our guides, we post webinars, we post speaking things that we're doing, and our feed is about us. But if you look at Google Plus, it's different. We will share things all across the board because it's a different type of group of people there, and it's a different way of sharing, and so we find that that's much easier for us to share lots of things there. So yeah, so the blog for us again is like that's the main source for Twitter, and then we also do all of our customer service, obviously.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to get into some more talking about, I'm going to ask you some questions about social media management and etiquette, but before we get into that, I just wanted to get your take on, we're going to talk about measurement in our last week of this class and how important it is for the community manager to be part of that measurement and really understand why, what's going on. So what's your take on that?
I think so. Measurement is key, and it's difficult to wrap your head around. It took me several years to really feel comfortable with what we were measuring and how I can make an impact on the company and that sort of thing. One of the key things that we really focus on is engagement, and I really hate that word because it means so many different things. But we use a tool called True Social Metrics that we use to gather our engagement metrics. And what we're looking at is, it was originally a blog post from Avinash 3, maybe 4 years ago, right, where he talks about not just looking at where if you try to take all the social networks and they have 3 things that are similar, right? You can respond, you write a post, you write a tweet, you write a Facebook post, you can respond to it in comments or replies, you can reshare it, and you can like it or favorite it or plus it, right, depending on those 3 things. And so in True Social Metrics, they have specific metrics that we use from there that we gather. And then we also gather metrics around like our Q&A forum. So we also care about how many people are asking questions and answering questions and how those are being shared. And we also look at our blog in the same way as those as social, because on the blog we have thumbs up, thumbs down, which causes controversy with the whole thumbs down thing. But anyway, so we have thumbs. You can like a post, you can comment on the post, and you can share the post. So we use that same idea with our blog as we do on social, so that we can look at them, and although they're not apples to apples, they're like green apples to red apples. So you can kind of look at them in an even way, and you can start to see trends in when engagement in one place goes up. Then we look at traffic. So we also look at traffic as right alongside of that engagement. You can usually see that, like, if we get that engagement much higher in a certain area, our traffic for that gets much higher as well. So those are some of the things that we really focus on. I think you could do a whole 4-hour like session specifically on metrics, so I probably won't dive much deeper right now, but I do have a post on the blog also that specifically talks about the things that we the things that we manage for metrics and the way we look at things. That I can send you that link as well.
Okay, great. And then, so just getting into, I love the presentation that you did at SMX, that if you can just kind of share with us some of the highlights on social media etiquette, and from a community management standpoint, there's a lot of don'ts, but then there's some do's. So pick out your favorites, and then I'm going to share with the class the full presentation that from SlideShare.
Great. So the thing with social media etiquette is everybody seems to know exactly what to do when other people screw up, right? So somebody screws up and everybody jumps on that bandwagon. Everyone's like, why would you do that? But it's really easy to mess up sometimes because, and your stuff goes out there quickly. There's a delete button, but most people have already screenshotted whatever you've put out there. I will never forget, there was one thing, it's not in this presentation, but we had a blog post. It went up at Sunday night or Saturday night. It was really late. I just posted it on Facebook. I said it's a Sunday treat. Posted it, went to bed, and the next morning I get an email from a coworker saying I just got kicked out of a coffee shop because of your Facebook post. And I'm like, what? And what I didn't realize was that the last word in this really long titled post was analytics. Well, if you cut off analytics at just the wrong word, you get ANAL. And so I had said a Sunday treat, and the post was how to dig into your something something efforts and I don't know, dig into your anal. Anyway, there are things like this that happen, right? That if you're not paying attention, and the president of your company publishes a post, and then you post it on Facebook, and you look crazy. So some of the ways that, like in the presentation that I really wanted to go through was one thing that I find is really, really, really easy to make sure that you don't do is make sure that when you're managing social, that you're managing the company account or you know whatever it is that you're doing that's not personal in one app and your personal account in a different app. It is so easy. The example that I use was specifically Red Cross, where Red Cross had tweeted, Ryan found 2 more 4-bottle packs of Dogfish Head's Midas Touch beer. When we drink, we do it right, getting slizzard. And that came from the Red Cross, like at Red Cross, the real Red Cross. And the problem is that particular person who had tweeted it was using the same, was using, it looks like Hootsuite for both their personal and the Red Cross. I mean, if you work for the Red Cross, you use something different.
Right.
It seems so duh, right? Like we should know this, but they make it really easy. Hootsuite's so easy to hook everything up. Sprout Social is easy to hook everything up. There's lots of tools out there that just make it easy. So if you keep those separate, you can really avoid one of those things. One thing that, and this happened yesterday as well, right? When there's a death that somebody that lots of people know about, or there's some sort of tragedy, the key is. It may not be that big of a deal to you personally, but if you see that your community and stuff are really talking about it and you're seeing a lot of activity, that it is time for you to go look at your scheduled posts. And even if you just move everything out 4 hours or you just wait to tweet those things until tomorrow or something, what you don't want to be is you don't want to be that jerk that everybody's talking about the death of Robin Williams, and you're like, hey, come to our webinar, it's gonna be great. I don't know. You stand out like a sore thumb. And so it's really easy. You see those things happening. If you're constantly monitoring and know what's going on, you can go back and say, okay, we're gonna push these back a bit. We do that often, even if something, if there's a big thing in the industry that people are really excited about and everybody's talking about one thing, and we have some like, hey, look at our post from last week that has nothing to do with it, we'll move it and change it so that it comes at a better time when we don't look out of place and it doesn't look like it's been scheduled, even though it makes your life easier to actually schedule things. Oops, let me see here. And the other thing is, especially knowing, let's see, so this was a tough one for me. The tragedy in Colorado is the slide I'm looking at, where there was in the movie theater, right? There was a shooting in the movie theater, and the very next day, the NRA tweeted, "Good morning, shooters. Happy Friday. Weekend plans?" And it was like, oh. Okay, I get it. You probably either didn't pay attention that there was like shooting the night before because it was at 10 o'clock at night. So you really need to be kind of aware, especially if you're a big brand, aware of what's happening and what's going on. And with that same thing, it happened in Aurora, Colorado. Well, people were using the hashtag Aurora, and this company, Celeb Boutique, tweeted, "Aurora is trending. Clearly our Kim K inspired Aurora dress. Shop here," and with a link. And it's like, oh, you're killing me, right?
Yeah.
Like, people call them out, and you don't want to be that person, and you don't number one want to get fired for simply not clicking on the hashtag to see what people are talking about, right?
Exactly.
I mean, those are things that, depending on where you work, are you could get fired for doing something like that, for not paying attention. So a lot of it is just paying attention and looking up things, and if I always have this thing that if you wouldn't say it or show that thing to your grandmother, like she might think it's distasteful in some way, then perhaps you might not want to share that on social because people think things are funny um, when they're not. There are lots of things that you see that someone thinks, wow, this is hilarious, and they post it, and you're like, wow, that is the most racist thing I've ever seen. So I often think like how my grandmother would react to something before we post it.
I love your list also of the list that you called it.
Yeah.
So one of them is don't auto follow, don't auto DM, don't buy followers. Like it seems
Right.
obvious to
They
us because we've been doing it now for a while and kind of like through the evolution of when some of the stuff was normal and now it's turned into the big don't.
Right. Yeah, those all seem like really easy things to like not, don't buy followers. And the problem is then you get to the bottom and it's like just don't screw up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what the heck does that mean? A lot of it comes from oftentimes you have people who you're right out of college and you get this great job and maybe you don't fully know quite yet what your company is okay with and isn't okay with. And so that's one thing to really know is to sit down with whether it's the corporate marketing person, the customer service person, how do we respond to these things and know the voice and get a feel so that you know how far you can push things. I one time after I first started managing social, very first one and only time, tweeted something that Rand asked me to remove. And at that point, I said, okay, I need to know the boundaries because if I'm going to do this, I need to do this and be able to jump in and make decisions because you have to have that. You have to have a knowledge or an understanding of like, okay, I'm going to just jump into this and we're going to hope for the best and I'll try not to screw everyone up.
Yeah, I think that's an important point because a lot of times as a community manager, you have to really be trusted to, like you said, just do it and go with it, and to have every single tweet be pre-approved.
Oh yeah.
Even though that does happen, as we know in certain industries, you can't get around it, but it's almost like that's really not doing social. So you have to have somebody in the position that you can really just trust, and if they make a mistake, then
yeah, and there have been times, I mean, heck, my team, I make mistakes all the time, and but luckily we've never, done anything. There are times when we will ask each other, like, is this too much? And sometimes, we'll laugh and say, no, that's perfect for that. Or sometimes we'll say, you know what, if you're asking the question, let's just not send that. Let's find something else. But we will send, goofy. Animated GIFs to people. We will send, songs. Like someone the other day said, "Where have you been all my life?" or something, and we sent, some like love ballad to them. Like, "Where have you been? We've been looking for you our entire life," and sent them some love ballad on YouTube. And it's okay to have. It's okay to have a voice and have a personality and be funny. Uh, but it's not okay to be crude or to make fun of people or, unless, your community, you may be, you know, dumbthingspeopledo.com or something in which perhaps
that's part of who you are.
Right? but when I love using geek oh my gosh, I can't think of what it's called. The Geek Store or Geek, what the heck's it called? Oh my gosh.
Geek Wire? I don't know.
No, it's the store.
Geek Squad. Geek Squad.
No, Think Geek. Oh
Geek.
goodness.
Okay.
Think Geek. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot that. I love what they do. If you check them out on social, at ThinkGeek on Twitter, they are brilliant because they know their community. Their community is fairly easy to know also, right? It's ThinkGeek. Everything is like all kinds of geeky stuff. But they don't just post their stuff. They post like silly pictures and things of people you know, I don't know, wearing like their t-shirts and anyway, they really get into that like the geek theme. Um, and it's great. And they can have a really fun personality because that's who they are and that's who's following them, without getting, you know, going so far that they're, you know, not paying attention to what's going on in the world around them and stuff like that, which I think is really key. It's really key to just be on top of things. And if you have a question in your mind as to whether you should do something, perhaps you should not do that, because if you have a question, someone else might call you out. We've been called out on things before, you know, for various reasons. And what we do is we've always just owned up to something and said, whoa, we totally didn't realize that you know, that would cause that reaction. Like that not our intent, totally our fault, and take ownership of it has always been, and companies, when they screw up, if they take ownership of it rather than deleting it and then never saying anything, or sometimes it's the like, oh, we've been hacked. It's like, okay, well, maybe you have been hacked, but you still need to own up to the fact
Right.
that it happened, right?
Exactly.
So, and that's again for us having that tag fee, always coming back to that of being like, okay, we're going to be open and honest, and you know, empathetic. That really helps us. And so far we haven't done anything too bad. I do love the fact there was one time that I had just gotten my Mac, and I had was just learning like copy paste functions and stuff. Everything was slightly different than my PC, and I tweeted, you know, today's webinar is now available for download with a link. Well, the last thing I had actually copied was the double rainbow video. And so I had pasted that unknowingly into the tweet, and people thought I was just sort of like rickrolling them, and they thought it was hilarious that that I had said one thing, and then when they clicked on it, they would get this video, and I just kind of went with that one. But but it's pretty fun. I mean, you screw up all the time. You just kind of, you know, you can go with it, and if you're open and honest about it, and not act like it never happened, or you know, get crazy or something, that's usually.
That's great advice, Jen. Okay, well, I think that we're pretty much to the end of our time, but I just want to really say thank you so much for taking the time. And also, Moz has been, like I said, we've used a lot of the Moz best practices material and everything throughout, so thanks for whoever puts that together. We've used a couple of Rand's videos, so tell him we said hi.
Excellent, will do.
And if you have any last 1 or 2 sentence words of wisdom for the social media managers out there, our future social media managers?
Well, my biggest thing is I love my job. My team, we really love what we do. We love being able to talk to people all day long. And if you can go into it knowing that you're talking to another human being, and not, you know, let those things really get under your skin and feel personal, because the other person sometimes doesn't realize that you're a person, right? And so if you go into it thinking with that empathetic view of, wow, this must be really frustrating for this user or for this person, they can't get on their flight, or they can't get this thing purchased, or you know, whatever maybe issue they might be having, if you really think of them as like, okay, how can I help them from an empathetic view, to me that's been really key. It's been really helpful, because then you have conversations. We had someone this morning complaining about something on the webinar, and I just replied and said, I'm so sorry, it's really frustrating, but this is the only way we can do it right now. And she was like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. And she felt bad, right? I'm like, well, I didn't, you know, when you respond you respond to someone as a human to another human, you usually get a much better response and conversation going, which is what you really, really want anyway, is to have those conversations.
That's great advice. So thank you, Jen. And where can our viewers follow you, and which social media network?
I'm everywhere, but Twitter is probably the best place. I'm at Jennita, Jennita, on Twitter. Facebook, I really only like do close friends and whatnot. So and Google Plus. So, but you have to look for me as Jennifer Sable Lopez because there's this other Jennifer Lopez that likes to take up my space in all the places.
I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, and we really appreciate it, and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks a lot. You too.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Social PR Secrets. If you like what you heard, check out the book on Amazon or follow our blog at socialprsecrets.com. This episode was sponsored by The Buyer Group, a social PR agency striving to keep our balance in the digital world, practicing public relations, social media, and search marketing, while occasionally drinking a glass of wine or two for the best creativity and results. Thank you all for tuning in. If you would like to get a free chapter of Social PR Secrets, go to socialprsecrets.com/free.